And when Peter was come to Antioch, I withstood him to his face, because he was to be blamed. I'm stunned by this scripture. This is Galatians chapter 2, verse number 11. The Apostle Paul is making this statement. And basically, he's saying to Peter, he said, you have not been faithful to the very thing that God revealed to you. You remember the sheet that came down from heaven? We read this in the book of Acts. And Peter, he's in a trance, and he sees this sheet come down from heaven with all manner of unclean beast. And the Spirit of God said to Peter, rise, slay and eat. And Peter said, no, Lord, I've never eaten that which is unclean or common. And the Spirit of God said, that which I have cleansed, let no man call unclean or common. And then there came the knock on the door. Those who had been sent by Cornelius, who had just seen an angel and a revelation from God, and God put it all together and showed Peter that this message of the gospel wasn't just for the Jews, but for the Gentiles as well. Well, keeping these things in my mind, I was excited to read something in the scripture. This had to do with the circumcision of Jesus. When they took him to the temple, there was an old prophet who came, and he had a word from God. He says, you will not die until you have seen the Lord's Christ. And when he saw the babe that Mary and Joseph brought in, he knew it was the Son of God. And he said, Lord, I'm ready to go now that you have showed me the Christ. And then he spoke over him, and he said that this child was to bring deliverance and peace and salvation to the Gentiles as well as to the nation of Israel. And when I read that, I said, that's exactly right. That is the message that the Apostle Paul carried to much of the known world during his ministry. But it was also the message that God had given to Peter, and even back when Peter first stood up there on the day of Pentecost, and he preached that tremendous sermon, and he quoted scripture, and he said this, but God had to show it to this young church that Jesus had birthed, because many people thought at that time that in order to become a Christian, you had to first become a Jew. But Peter saw something different. But now, when it's time for him to go sit down and eat with the Gentiles, he refused to do it. And that's why Paul said, I rebuked him to his face. You see, here's the thing about it, is that learning and understanding and living it out is always quite a contrast. And anything that we face, things that we deal with. This is Pastor Jack King with the gospel on the radio broadcast.